Do you want to know how to use reflections to create really cool sports pictures or any kind of picture that stand out? My name is Matt Hernandez, and in this video, I'm going to show you how. Okay, so it's basketball season. I've been doing a lot of basketball and cheerleading pictures recently, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to show you how to use that glossy floor in basketball gyms to create a cool reflection to really add to your sports pictures. So we're actually going to use one of the cheerleaders as an example from a shoot we did recently. So I'm not going to talk about the setup for this shoot necessarily. I might a little bit. You'll see some of it in the behind the scenes footage that we play. But we do have another video if you want to check that out on more in depth on how to actually set the lights up and settings and all that kind of stuff for a shoot like this. So we'll link that below. We'll put it up here. You can check that out later if you want to. I highly suggest watching it. A lot of people really like that one. Okay, but the video that I'm talking about, we did the same setup. We basically had a light behind the subject for individuals, and then we used a fog machine to get some atmosphere backlighting the fog. So one thing that you need to keep in mind when you try to shoot reflections is you need to be close to the surface that's going to make the reflection. That's not always the case, but in this case, because they're standing on the floor, that's what you're using, you need to get down closer to the floor. So there's two ways that you can do it, or rather I should say two focal lengths. I guess not strict focal lengths, but I'm talking about shooting wide and shooting compressed, because there is a difference in the way the reflection is going to behave, the way the floor is going to behave, reflecting that back up so you can see it. And I'm not 100% why it works the way that it does, but I think I know, so we're going to go over that too. So okay, so let's look at some example photos here. So I shot this cheerleader wide and compressed. So I really mainly use two lenses whenever I do portrait shoots or team and individual shoots like this. I have a 24-70 and I have a 70-200, right? They both go to 70 millimeters. I haven't tested this on my Sony cameras and lenses, but when I had Nikon, I tested the same two lenses, and 70 millimeters on the 24-70 did not look exactly the same as the 70-200. It was still a little bit wider, or looked wider anyway. So, but that does play a role in how wide you go here. And generally speaking, the compressed pictures, in my opinion, are going to work better. Now, that being said, you do have to scoot back quite a bit for the compressed shot. So I went wide first, and let's look at those real quick. All right, so this one was shot at 25 millimeters, so it was almost as wide as the lens will go. I was pretty close, and you can see this is doing a couple of different things. Now, one advantage to shooting wide is, and when I say wide, I would say between, even wider than 24, but my lens specifically, 24 millimeters to probably like around 40, you're really kind of starting to get away from that wide look whenever you get any more compressed than that. So, but one thing it does let you do, if you're in a tight space, or if there's other stuff going on in the gym, and you have to get closer, then the wide angle lens will allow you to do that. So that is one advantage. And it still looks cool. You can see that this does look neat. But the one drawback, the first thing that I notice is, number one, the fog is a lot smaller in the picture because the background is being distorted. Anything closer to you with a wide angle lens is going to look bigger. Anything further away is going to look smaller, right? A lot more so than if you shoot it like, 120 millimeters or 200 millimeters, anything like that. Now, that being said, the advantage is, yes, the fog looks smaller, but you can also see the lights here in the background of the picture, which I think looks really cool when you do sports pictures. That's assuming that the ceiling in the gym that you're in or the location that you're at looks good. There have been situations where it doesn't look as good, and maybe the lights are older and they're crooked, or there's like balls stuck in the ceiling. I've seen that before. So in that case, it might not look great. But in this one, we have a basketball goal that's put up here. Not ideal. We have some speakers. Not ideal. If it was just the lights, it'd look great. And you could go in and clone those out if you want to. With team and individuals, you don't probably have time to do that. I know I don't, because there's a lot of pictures to go through. If it was a senior shoot or for a portfolio picture, I might take the time to do that. But, if they weren't there, it would be better. We could have put the goal down. I honestly didn't even notice that whenever I was taking it, because I shot most of these more compressed. But, I don't always do that because it saves me time to shoot with the 24-70 whenever I'm doing team individuals. That way I don't have to switch my lens. Now you can if you want to, but it just kind of depends on the look you want, what you're going for. But the background, besides those two distracting elements, doesn't look bad here. I mean, you can see the doors in the background, that kind of thing. The logo on the wall is kind of cool. I do like that. You can see the scoreboard too, and again, all that stuff can be removed. But it's just a matter of whether or not you want to take the time to do it. The other big thing too, and I don't know, you'll see this whenever I compare it to the compressed here shortly. But the ground, the floor doesn't look super bright. You can see her reflection better where the fog is on the floor. And I guess because there's probably more contrast there is why. But let's go look at the compressed picture with the same pose. So you can see right here it's much more vivid. This one is shot at 79 millimeters, so it's not super compressed, but it's on the lower end with that lens. But still, I mean, the difference really, honestly, is night and day. Let's pull these up together here. Okay, so wide on the left, compressed on the right. So 25 and then 79. So this is much darker. This is much brighter, and you can see it better here. But again, it's smaller just because the fog's being distorted because it's so much further back. So I think I know why that's happening. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's because the wide-angle lens, it's going to be curved. That's why it distorts things, right? So it's taking the floor, and whereas on the right with the compressed shot, it's shooting more down, like true to having a flat plane in front of you. The wide angle lens is almost bending the floor and making it look like it's curved a little bit, because that's what a wide angle lens is supposed to do. So it's doing its job, but because it's doing that, it's more like you're standing up looking at the floor. That's why when you take portraits and you have any kind of, if you're standing up taking it, then there's more of a chance you're going to get the ground. If somebody's standing up eye level with you and you shoot at 24 millimeters, then you're probably going to see the horizon line more in the middle of the frame, and you're going to see a lot of the ground behind them, because even if you don't have their feet in it, because it is going to bend the ground and make it go up more because it's distorting it. Compressed is not going to be the same thing. Number one, let's say you're shooting waist up with a wide angle lens, they're going to get a lot of the ground, right? Well, to shoot waist up with a compressed lens, like I don't know, 140 millimeters, let's say, you're going to have to back up quite a bit further because it's not going to distort the picture as much. So there's a good chance that you won't have any of the ground in the background, right? The horizon line is going to be lower, and you're going to see a lot more of the sky or whatever's behind them. And that's exactly what's going on here. Now, this one is zoomed out quite a bit more so you can see. I did this on purpose. This is a way that I really like to take and use reflections and take reflection pictures, is to split the frame like this so that it mirrors the image on both sides. Because I think it looks really cool because it's really sharp and vivid up here, and it's darker below, and it looks similar, but it's blurred a little bit. So it's just kind of a neat little way to utilize that. Now with team and individual pictures, if you're giving them multiple poses and multiple pictures to choose from, then it's okay to do this. But it's you want to probably zoom in a little bit more too. You can take this shot, but because you're not doing a whole portrait shoot with them, they're only going to get a few choices. It's a good idea to do both, just so that your client ends up happy, because because the athlete's going to be smaller in this picture. So they want to focus on their kid and what they look like. That's really why they're hiring you. So I would suggest, while this one is really neat, I would suggest taking this one too, zoomed in a little bit. And depending on your camera, if I shot this with my A7R5 at 60 megapixels, then I could crop that if I bought it. But with the A9 III, it's only 24 or 25. It's not going to be as easy because you're going to lose quite a bit of resolution. So I would take both just to be safe. But because the floor is bending there, so you can see, I mean, it's just, and then even the zoomed in version, let's look at those two both. So she's about the same. Now, so the wide angle also, one other thing too, it looks like I'm shooting up at her more, like up. I'm not shooting. You hear people say don't shoot up people's noses. There are times when you can break that rule, obviously. But this on the right definitely, I think, looks more flattering. And a lot of times girls are automatically not going to want you to shoot low and wide angle. Now, when you shoot low compressed, they may not realize that it's going to look as good as this one does, but that's the difference in the focal length, and you've got to be aware of that whenever you're taking the picture, because the one on the right is going to be more flattering. The one on the left looks cool, but it's good, again, good to give them options. You're probably not going to switch lenses for every single kid, though, so you got to pick one and stick with it. So I would probably, if I took this one, I'd probably get closer and zoom in too, and like more like waist up, just to give them both options so that it doesn't look like you're shooting up quite as much, because it can be not as flattering to, especially to girls. Okay, so let's look at the laying down picture now. Okay, so this one is a little bit different. So whereas the distortion in the wide angle lens before with her standing up kind of worked against us, it's kind of working for us in this situation. Here's the wide angle shot. I had those backwards. So this is the compressed, and this is this one is 180 millimeters, and this one's 42. Okay, so this is wide, so we got them backwards here, and then this is compressed. So you can see there's another, again, there's a big difference, but what worked against us before with the vertical picture full body is working for us now that she's laying on the ground. So the reflection, again, it's definitely there. You can absolutely see it. It's not quite as dark, but the light, what's happening now is the light, the backlight that's lighting the fog is hidden with her head, right? So it's creating like a halo around her, and it's not as distracting. There's not as much flare. Now, flare can be cool. You can also go overboard with it really easy, so you've got to watch it. And you've also got to make sure your backlight's not going to be too bright. In the compressed shot, it is a problem because you can see that's the light stand right there. So the light's all the way up here, even out of frame. And while the reflection is, you can see that it's darker, like on the edges, but that light, number one, is reflecting in the middle, and so that's a big glare, big bright spot that's very distracting. Number one, it's darker, so it has the possibility that it could look cool, but because the light isn't hidden, it's creating all that flare and haze. So it's decreasing the contrast and affecting the color and just making it look just more hazy in general, which can look okay, but you can see how much darker her hair is and her face in this one. And the parents probably going to like that one better. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm going to just assume, just from doing this for 14 years, that they're probably going to like that one better. So this one's different. Now, again, it does look like you're shooting up a little bit more, but in that case, the light doesn't look nearly as good. Now, if you're not using a backlight, then it's not going to matter as much, right? So, or if the backlight's not in the shot, let's say you have them on the edges, like 45 degrees out of frame, then that's going to look much better. That reflection's not going to be there. The haze won't be there. It might be the winner, right? But because I'm doing it with it behind her with the fog for this setup, then I'd say the wide angle definitely wins in that scenario. Okay, so there's definitely advantages and disadvantages to both. And like I said, when you're on a portrait shoot, it might be a good idea to switch lenses so you get both looks. But on a team and individual shoot, coaches hate photo day, so it's probably not a good idea to switch lenses for every single kid, especially if you have like 60 kids like I had in this scenario. That would have added a lot of time to the shoot, and I don't want to be there that long, and I know the coaches and the kids don't want to either. They want to do pictures, but everybody wants to get them over with as soon as possible. That, not sacrificing quality, obviously. Advantages and disadvantages to both, but you got to decide which one's going to be best for the scenario that you're shooting in. In this scenario, I would say compressed probably looked a little bit better, but also you have to look at the fact, like, is the wide, it may not look quite as good, but is it going to be good enough? Is it still going to be good? Are they still going to be happy? Because if it still looks great, maybe not quite as great as the compressed, but it's going to be good, then they're never going to see the compressed shot, so they won't know the difference, So you have to think about that factor also. So you just got to make the best decision for the scenario you're in. So, well, that was a quick one today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I really love making these videos for you guys. It's a lot of fun, but it is a lot of work, so I would really appreciate if you guys hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell so you get notified when we post new content. I really appreciate everybody's support. We want to keep the channel going, and that helps do it. Make sure you go to the website, Matthernandez.shop, sign up for the newsletter. Any kind of information we have to put out, workshop announcements, templates, presets that'll be coming out soon, anything like that, that'll all be in the newsletter, so make sure you subscribe to that. We'll see you next time.